Okay. Well, I see something live up here.
Yeah, so that's live, connected, and going. All right. So, yeah, we'll see if this goes live, and we'll go from there.
Sounds
And
good.
the other fun part is I have no idea what it actually looks like. So this is the other fun part about this. So we're just going to go. I think it's probably just you and I on the screen side by side. So
Okay.
that's exactly what it is. So welcome everybody. Uh, this is going to be a fun little morning session here. If you don't know already, my name is DJ Eshelman. I'm joined by Kevin Davis. He is, of course, the author of Just Tell Me What to Do, which is a fantastic guide to the ketogenic diet. And I was kind of mentioning the other day that I love that he actually intersperses guidance from the Bible in here as well, which I
Hmm.
thought was a bold step. And so I wanted to introduce you all to Kevin and have him participate in this, and he graciously agreed. We are part of a mastermind together with
Hmm.
Cliff Ravenscraft, and so that's another connection point we have. And so I've grown to trust and know Kevin for these last few, gosh, almost a year and a half now, I think.
Yeah, it's
So
been about a year and a half.
yeah, yeah, it's
I
fantastic.
think
So
we joined at the same time, or roughly within a
roughly the same
month.
time, yeah, I think
Mhm.
so. Yeah, fantastic. So, um, yeah, so if you have questions or comments, feel free to put those into the comment section, or if you're here with us on the Zoom, you can put that in the chat, and we'll see it
Mhm.
there. It isn't super fancy, like we can't put it up on the screen like I can on my other streams, but I will read your question out, and we'll see that. So, uh, Kevin, obviously I introduced you a little bit, but maybe give us a little bit more background about yourself and what you do.
Well, I've been a follower of Christ since 1994, and I've been a PA since the same time. And
Okay.
currently live in Kentucky, and we have a primary care clinic. I've been operating this one since 2003. Me and my wife own this together, and we treat everybody. We treat from 2 months old till 95 years old. We treat the diabetics. We treat colds, coughs, cholesterol. So we treat the whole range of medical problems here. But the one thing that we have come to try to do is instead of treating a disease, is trying to prevent disease. And that's one of the things that we really are on uh, our process is trying to do with the ketogenic and with fasting is trying to get people healthy so they don't have to deal with their chronic medical problems. And fasting is one of the ways that we implement one of the tools to try to get people to a healthier lifestyle.
Awesome. Awesome. So I've kind of explained a little bit about some various ways to fast, like just from a behavioral standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
like taking certain things away, things like that. But what I wanted to talk about specifically was, removing things from your diet, and or some people are doing just a complete removal of food, which is what I'll be doing. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
doing water only for a period of days and that sort of thing. So maybe let's walk through some of the process of when you're removing food from your diet. What
Mm-hmm.
is that doing for your body?
Well, I think the first thing is if anybody here is pregnant, breastfeeding, children, they don't need to be fasting. Uh, So we need to kind of put that out there first because I'm going to take this, and if it's okay, I'm going to take this from a medical standpoint
Please.
and then also through a spiritual standpoint because I intertwine both of them in everything that I do.
Awesome.
So and so if you have any of those conditions, you probably need to talk to your provider before you do anything. And also if you're a diabetic, for instance, and you're taking medication and you're fasting and you continue with your medications, you may have some problems. So make sure you run that by as well. So the way I look at fasting is, everybody fasts some for If you go to bed and you eat at 8 o'clock at nighttime and you eat breakfast the next day at 8 o'clock, you fasted for 12 hours. So everybody fasts some. Now I have some clients who get up, at 2 o'clock because they're hungry and they're eating. Well, it breaks their fast. So basically, when you're fasting, the next meal is when you break your fast. And that's where they get breakfast. That's where the name come in. So when we are trying to fast for medical reasons, and I do this a lot for medical reasons, and there's a lot of different things that we can go as far as the benefits from it. But what we want to do is look at fasting more from a medical standpoint as a lifestyle. It's not necessarily like you're depriving yourself, but you're actually making a choice not to eat for the medical benefits that can be displayed not only now but long term. So fasting has been around forever.
Yeah.
If you read, most of your audience, I think maybe is have read the Bible, and if we just listen to what God has told us to do from the beginning, and may not know the reasons why, but they help us physically. So when we're fasting, we can do it from a medical and a spiritual standpoint. So what I would recommend for people is when you're fasting, know why you're fasting from physiological standpoint.
Yeah.
What is your goal? So if your goal is longevity, it could be weight loss, it could be help controlling diabetes, blood pressure. So you have to know why you're fasting, and then if you know your whys, then it's a lot easier to progress in that lifestyle.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So fasting, have most of your audience, you think, have done fasting?
It seems like a lot of us have
Mhm.
done at least some form of fasting. I didn't really get a lot of feedback, but if you're here listening with us and you've not done any kind of fasting before in your life, certainly let us know, and I'll put that up there as well. But it seems like most had some idea. So
Mhm. Well, like with fasting, the thing that I look at is, a lot of people come to me for weight loss, and with the ketogenic diet and things like that, and on our Lyme business things. So I incorporate fasting into, a lot of the plans that we have for people to get that results. So when you're trying to diet and you're trying to figure out what foods to eat, one of the simplest things to do is incorporate fasting, because there's no decision to make. You don't have to worry about what your next meal is. And it's going to get some of the benefits that we're going to talk about here in just a second.
yeah,
So when you're combining, a quote diet, and I don't like the word diet, it's just a lifestyle. But
right.
when you incorporate that into fasting, you're going to get a much better results, because the way the body works physiologically, and we'll talk about that as well in just a second. So I would encourage people to, think about, what their goals are, and then incorporate the best type of fasting to reach those goals. And if you want, we can talk about a few different types of fasting.
Yeah, I was actually just going to suggest that we
Okay.
maybe highlight some various forms, because I know that one of the things that I've talked about is that there's various levels, various ways people can be prepared, but I do want people to think of challenging themselves a lot
Hmm.
more than maybe they have previously. So I do want to have that notion of, hey, you know what, um, here's some options maybe to challenge yourself just a little bit more during these 10 days. So yeah, let's go ahead and nail out some different ways that people can fast for sure.
Okay, the first one is the most easy one, I think, is time restricted eating. And
Hmm.
basically, you're going to pick a time that you're not going to eat, and then a window of time that you are going to eat. And most of the time, if you've done any kind of research, this is called 16/8 fasting.
Okay.
Basically, you're going to fast for 16 hours and you're going to eat for 8. So, and that does help with some of the benefits as far as like with your body. A lot of times, if people are eating a standard American diet, even skipping breakfast is sometimes hard because they're used to that. And we'll talk about simple steps to get started at the end. But if you're just doing a 12-hour fast right now from overnight, you can kind of gradually increase that to a 16-hour fast.
Right. Okay.
So that's what we call time restricted eating. A lot of times people hear the word intermittent fasting, and intermittent fasting is a little bit different. And I use those terms interchangeably because people don't really want to get to the nomenclature. But intermittent fasting is a fast that you do for a specific amount of time for a specific day. For instance, I do like an intermittent fast from Sunday night till Monday night every week. And then I do a time restricted eating the rest of the week, the 6 days a week.
Oh,
So
okay.
I do an intermittent fast for 24 hours on a Sunday night to Monday night, and I do time restricted eating for the rest of the time. And I do that for different reasons. Sometimes me and my wife will usually have something that we want to pray about for that Monday.
Yeah.
And it also, the longer that you fast, the more health benefits that you get. So, there's a difference
Yeah.
between a 16, a 24, 48-hour fast. And if you're going to go through is it 10 days you guys are going to go through?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, you're going to hit a lot of these things that we're going to talk about here in just a second. So there's that. So if you've never fasted before, that's probably the easiest way to get started is the 16-hour. Now the other way is it's called 5-2. Basically, you're going to eat a normal diet. Now, normal diet to you and me may be different, but you're going to eat a normal diet, and we can talk about diet later on if you want to. But you're going to eat a normal diet for 5 days, and then you're going to do a fast for 2 days. Now, those 2 days can be like you eat 500 calories or less, or you can do a fast where you don't eat anything but drink water. So that's a 5-2. You can do an alternate day fasting. You fast for 24 hours, you eat a normal diet for 24 hours, and you go back and forth, back and forth. So it's just every other day you're going to fast. And then probably the last one is the warrior diet. A warrior diet is when you're going to fast for a longer period of time, so specific days. And it's different for everybody with that, but with the warrior diet, it's hard to do if you've never done it before. So you're fasting for several days, and then you're going to eat a normal diet. It's kind of the reverse of the 5-2.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That
So,
rough.
the thing that people really, if you're eating what we call a standard American diet, and you're eating things such as, you're eating pizzas and donuts or whatever it may be, you eat to get fuel. And I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about ketogenic diet and how it kind of plays into part if you're trying to do a fast. So when you eat, you want to get fuel for your body. And basically when you're eating a standard American diet, you're getting your fuel from carbs and from sugar. Now, the problem is when you're eating that diet, the excess that you have gets converted into fat and it's stored in your liver. So that's the way God made you, is because in 2 days, if you don't eat anything, say you lived like 500 years ago and you didn't have anything to kill, well, you've got that stored energy to use. The problem that we have now is we've got grocery stores, restaurants, our refrigerators are full. We don't go through those fasting periods. So when you're eating the sugar, it burns it up. And then if you notice, if you eat a high sugar meal, if you eat oatmeal and say orange juice for breakfast, in a couple of hours, you're hungry. It's because you burned up all that sugar. You stored the excess as fat in your liver, but your body still needs energy. So it has to feed it. You have to feed it again. That's why you get hungry. With a ketogenic diet, you kind of reverse that. You basically are not eating the carbs and the sugar. You're teaching your body to use fat as fuel, either the fat you eat or the fat that's stored. And then that's why a lot of times people with a ketogenic diet, is so much easier to fast because you've trained your body to burn your fat as fuel instead of having to go back to getting sugar on a regular basis. I had a
Right.
lady that I coached a couple weeks ago. She went all day without eating because she forgot to eat because she wasn't hungry.
Right.
And that's just we see that a lot. So if you're really going to try to incorporate fasting into your lifestyle, the better you prepare your body to give the full fuel that you need, the better results I think that you're going to get and the less struggle that you have. So that's basically, think about energy. So why would you fast? That's a lot of times people, for spiritual reasons, it's understood. I think for most people is, you concentrate on what God wants you to do. You have these when you get hungry, at least I do. When I get hungry, when I'm fasting for an extended amount of time, that's when I go to God in prayer. It reminds me, okay, I need to take whatever it is I have concern and lay it at His feet.
Right.
So that's where that part is. But physically, why would you want to fast? The easiest answer is weight loss. If you have weight loss that needs to be done, if you want to lose weight, is an easy way to incorporate it into your life. And it all has to go with the storing of your fat and insulin resistance and things like that. Increases your metabolic rate, actually doesn't decrease your metabolic rate. The other thing that it helps is something called autophagy. Have you ever heard of autophagy?
No, this is new for me.
Okay, it's AUTOPHAGY.
Okay.
All right, just in case your audience wants to look this up. Um, it is something. It was discovered by, I think it was a Japanese researcher about in 2017 or 18, and basically it is your body repairing itself. So let me give you an example here. My wife came up with this. She's the smartest one of both of us here. But let's say you've had children and they're all in the living room and they're all playing with a bunch of toys. Okay. That means, think about that like you're eating on a regular basis every 2 or 3 hours. If you go in there and you try to clean that room up, what's going to happen is you can kind of put a toy away, but the child's going to get another toy out and put it out on the floor and play. And it's going to be a constant struggle. But let's say you really wanted to do a deep clean underneath the couch, the cushions, move them around, stuff like that. Well, there's no way you can do a deep clean if you have a bunch of kids in there. So if you have a bunch of food in your system, there's no way your body can heal itself. It's having to deal with the food that you're taking in. All right. So let's just say those same kids go to your in-laws for the weekend and you want to really clean that living room. Well, you have nothing else to do. You don't have any toys to deal with. So you can go in, clean under the couch, clean under the cushions, polish the furniture, whatever it is that you want to do. Right. So you can do like a deep cleaning. So when you're fasting, your body can start healing itself because it can go into a deep cleaning, get rid of the bad stuff. But as long as you keep eating on it like every 4 or 5 hour basis, your body can't get that. And as far as like a chronic disease, that's where autophagy comes in. And you're going to hit this autophagy in your 10-day fast that's coming up. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it actually resonates with some things that I've seen before as well, where I've actually had experiences where we did a 14-day water only fast. Mm-hmm. And during those 14 days, I started to at first get some pains, mm-hmm. but then I started noticing that that was actually, I was getting to a point where there was less pain than I had previously. Mm-hmm. And so it was actually like, and the places that the pain was there, like that feeling of something going on was happening, always seemed to be like injury spots. Like I have I broke my leg a few years ago, mm-hmm. and so I would feel like something like heat kind of a thing going on mm-hmm. these places. So that's why I was curious about that too. It sounds like that's just the body saying, okay, we're done processing food for a while. I can finally focus on this. It's like taking a sabbatical, Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, I'm going to focus on this for a while. So that actually makes a lot of sense. It's a fascinating design. That's what that
Yeah.
is.
And it goes back to from a Christian standpoint is, you know, and I look at so many things through the lens of the Bible as far as like your health. If we would just listen and obey and do, we're just now figuring out the medical benefits from this stuff. But God, He formed us, and if we just obey with Him, what He tells us to do, when He tells us to fast and pray, He doesn't say if you fast and pray. He says when you fast and pray.
Oh yeah.
He like well, I know you guys know this, but He already knew all these medical benefits. So
Right.
that's what's amazing to me is like it's just like it's like I kick myself sometimes thinking just obey. Anyway, that's a side note. But the other thing that it helps is called epigenetics. Now we all have genes. We're born with them from our mom and dad. You can't do anything about that, right? But you can help control how these genes are expressed. For instance, they've done studies on twins. One twin will come over here and live a healthy lifestyle, the other one will not. And you look at them 30 years later, they have the same genes, but they have totally different outcomes. One may be having a lot of medical problems, taking medication, the other one may not take any medication. So you have some control a little bit on how your genes are expressed and your lifestyle, right? Depending on what your age is, but when your lifestyle in your 20s, 30s, and 40s are really going to dictate what your health is going to be when you're 50, 60, 70. So the more that you control, that lifestyle, the better your genes are going to be expressed. And fasting helps with that as well. It helps with hormones. It helps with your sex hormones. It makes them more sensitive. It helps with like your growth hormone. I work out every morning around 7 in the morning, and I do it fasting. I used to eat, have a pre-workout, post-workout, have even sometimes a shake during my workout. But now I work out at 7 and I don't eat till like noon.
Wow. Okay.
And one of the things that they found is when you have a fasting workout is it increases your growth hormone.
Oh.
So there's a lot of people that I've treated that's had, I don't know if there's males on here who have low testosterone, but with not just fasting, but with a whole change in your lifestyle, I've seen actually testosterone go up. So again, epigenetics, you have some control over how your body expresses itself. And fasting is just one part of a healthy lifestyle that you can have. Long term, there's oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is basically think about cutting an apple and putting it on your countertop. And what happens? It turns brown, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like you think about the insides of your body. And it goes back to the autophagy repairing itself, is when you're fasting, you reduce your oxidative stress. You're not stressing your body out as much. It's able to heal. And again, if you combine that with a healthier, diet and things like that, exercise as well, that can help as well. And then the last thing, and I don't know, we have a podcast as well, me and my wife. And this is one thing that we talk about almost on every podcast is inflammation.
Right.
You talked about your pains.
Yeah.
They got better. Inflammation is like the groundwork for a lot of chronic disease.
Yeah.
So if you can live a lifestyle that has less inflammation, and we're talking about toxins and even things like that with your inflammation, but today talking about fasting, is it lowers your inflammation. So the lower inflammation that your body has, it's able to repair itself. And things like chronic diseases like high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, even diabetes and things like that is going to help with that. So there's a lot of medical benefits from fasting that is going to not only with right now what you see as far as weight loss and stuff like that, but you're going to get the benefits 10, 20, 30 years down the road by doing the changes today.
Yeah, awesome. And one thing I wanted to talk about is some people are doing more of a like a Daniel fast,
Mm-hmm.
some variations like that. So maybe talking through kind of what people can expect from like a energy level and things like that when they're fasting different kind of ways.
Well, it depends on where they're coming from a lot. If they're coming from a standard American diet and they jump into fasting, first couple of days, they're probably going to feel really bad
Right.
because they're not used to, they don't have a fuel source. So if they're doing it from a ketogenic standpoint, a lot of times they can ease right into it. But a lot of times what I see, and I see this personally, when you fast for 24 hours, that 24-hour mark, you'll be really hungry. Like for me, I'm going to use some time examples for me. If I start on Sunday night, Monday night, sometimes I'm hungry. But if I push through that hunger, and I'll talk about hunger in just a second. If you push through that hunger, you're going to be surprised the next day how much more energy that you have. It's like, where did this come from? So, when we're hunger, and most everything we talk about with, ketogenic or fasting or anything like that, we really want to think about the hormones, how it affects them. There's a hunger hormone called ghrelin. It's kind of like gremlin, you think about hunger hormone. It's easy to remember that, but it's in your stomach. And your hunger is, a lot of times depends on your lifestyle as far as when you eat. That hunger hormone is like a circadian rhythm. It's going to go up in the morning, the afternoon, and then evening time. If you really know that this hunger hormone is going to go up and it's going to go down, if you can get through that 30-minute period, taking a walk, drinking some water, getting on, doing something to occupy your mind that takes you off your hunger, in 30 minutes, that hunger hormone is going to go down. And an hour later, you're going to think back, I was hungry, but now I'm not. Mm. So as you go through your fast coming up, that hunger hormone will probably, come up and come down. And if you just realize, hey, 30 minutes, it's going to go down, my hunger is going to go down along with it, and I'll be able to continue with my fast. And I would caution you that ghrelin, that surge usually goes up between 7 and 8 p.m. That's the strongest surge. And I don't know if it resonates with you or your audience, but that's when I usually get hungry.
Right. Yeah.
It's hormonal. So just realize once you get through that, I know at home, if I'm doing extended fast and I get hungry, if I can make it to 8:30 and 9, I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that awareness of it's going to happen. It's not like if it happens, it's when it's going to happen, and it's coming, and you're mentally prepared for pushing through that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the more you're mentally prepared for this stuff that your body's going to experience, the easier it is to go through it, because it's temporary. You're going to be okay, and if you can just push through it, then you can make it to the next time.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Tim has a question here that I think I want to spotlight here. Mm-hmm. He says, I have experience with keto and time-restricted eating and intermittent fasting. Would love to hear more about recommendations for longer 7 to 10-day water fasts, like recommended supplements, caffeine intake, and ways to be able to keep energy up. You'd also like to hear about recommendations on what foods to eat to ease back into a normal diet after the fast, which is something we should absolutely talk about anyway.
Mm-hmm. For extended fasts like that, of course, hydration is important. You have to get that in. A lot of times when I'm doing a fast, or especially when I first started doing a fast, I would take some salt and put it in some water, like if you feel dizzy, because what's happening is when you're making that transition from burning sugar, let's say you're not even doing keto, you're doing a regular diet, but you're used to burning sugar. Well, it takes a little while for your body to adjust, to start burning fat. And that's what they call keto flu, if anybody's ever familiar with that or heard that term.
Yep.
So what you want to do is make sure that you're getting, the things you want to look out for that is like magnesium, potassium, fluids, and sodium, salt. So make sure you're getting those in your diet. Caffeine, I try to stay away from it. It's a stimulant, and I think overall, if you're having to use caffeine for energy to get you where you need to go, then there's an underlying problem with probably stress, and you're burning up things as far as your energy level. So caffeine, I don't usually use caffeine. I don't think it'll hurt during your fast, but you want to just make sure that you get enough water and not just depend on coffee or tea or whatever it is that you're eating that's non-caloric.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, the caffeine thing for me, I noticed that that's one of the headaches that I get if I'm just suddenly off of caffeine. So I've personally been tapering down for the last few days because I know that's one of the things that I need to step down on. I always think I'm not doing as much as I am,
Right.
but that's always one of those things too for me that is easing in is important. We should talk a little bit about easing back out of fasting too.
Usually what you want to do is, your stomach has not taken in any food. So you want to be careful about, making it overwork when you first start getting back in.
Mm.
So doing some simple carbs will be fine. Having, a salad, something along those lines will help get you back. And what I would recommend is something along those lines when you first get back, waiting a couple hours, and then trying to eat some, easily digested like protein. Now, when you first start back, things that I use that I recommend is like salmon. You don't want to do a 10-day fast and then go right back into eating like a steak and not eating too much of it. So when you first break your fast, at that point, having some simple carbs with it or some protein with some good fat will help. And then a couple hours later, when you want to have that meal, and again, plan this out, when you break your fast, don't overdo it. But then a couple hours later, like having like a salmon and some vegetables is usually a good way to get back into easing your digestive system, because you went 10 days, your body's not producing as many digestive enzymes, and probably your stomach acid is a little bit altered than what it was when you first started. And you don't want to overwork your stomach too much. So eating a predetermined amount of food, and what predetermined is probably individualized, but don't eat like a full meal to begin with. Eat some carbs that are simple type carbs, and then a couple hours later eating a meal like that would probably be the best thing.
Nice. Okay, so I think we might have skipped over. I was going to talk a little bit about when people want to do like vegetable only or juice fasting. I was actually just looking up a thread here to see some different ways people are going to be fasting in our group.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the most popular is actually cutting out meats and things like that, which is kind of that Daniel fast.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe talk a little bit about that and some things that people can do in terms of that. I know that Tim was saying he's going to do a 5 and 7 day water and bone broth fast.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got some variations on plans here. So maybe we could talk about some of the there's benefits to all kinds of fasting, really, but maybe talk through a little bit about what people can do, especially from a biblical perspective, like what kind of things that people can do for those fasts.
Well, I think that, with the Daniel fast, that's a common one. I personally never have done the Daniel fast. My wife has done the Daniel fast. Mm-hmm. And actually gained like 7 pounds from the Daniel fast.
I was going to say, if you're all keto and then you go into something like that I can see that. Yeah.
So, I think from a biblical standpoint is I think fasting from foods or whatever it may be that is going to keep your mind on God and keep your mind on why you're doing this. You know, for me, for instance, you know, if I'm going to fast, you know, probably meats would be the ones I would choose because that's what I eat mostly,
Right.
and along with vegetables. So that would be something that I would think that I would use for my fasting. You know, the bone broth is a great way to include because it includes some of the electrolytes that we have and has some protein in it as well. And you
Yeah.
know that can help, especially for an extended type fast. For the vegetables, you know, make sure that you're getting enough of like salt on your vegetables, and you know that's fine because who is the guy who does the Daniel fast? Who wrote the book on it? I have it at home. I forget his name. Ruben? No.
That might be right. It's been a while.
Anyway, you know,
Yeah.
he's wrote a whole book on it. That's what my wife followed. She did this about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And, but I think a lot of it has to depend on, you know, on praying. What should you be fasting? You know, whether it be, you know, just, you know, if someone has trouble fasting, you know, maybe fasting just one meal a day to begin with, you know, and that could be um, what God wants them to do. Maybe a 7 day fast, like with what you're going to do. You know, we've talked a lot about in our mastermind, you know, your reasons for your fasting and the things that you desire to have from this fasting.
Yep.
And I think that, you know, whatever that may be, you know, it's fine. But I think you're going to get clarity from the fast that you decide to do, if you're in line with what Jesus is wanting you to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, if anybody is viewing live and have any additional questions, go ahead and throw them into the chat. I know Tim was mentioning he absolutely agrees with the just obey comment.
Mhm.
The psychology and medical benefits in the Bible are amazing principles that have taken science hundreds of years to figure out on their own. I totally agree.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, haven't we been talking about this already? I mean,
Yeah.
but anyway, if anyone out there on YouTube or Facebook that we're broadcasting to has any questions, I'll give about 4 or 5 minutes for those to pop up. And then we're going to end the live stream, but keep the Zoom room open for people to pop on their cameras and say hi. So that's the way that's going to work. So if we have any other questions, just put them in there. If you're viewing this right now and you're not in the Facebook group, we are going to be fasting from the 10th to the 20th is the time period of guided fasting. You can fast any of the ways we're talking about, or hey, you know, even if you're just giving up something behaviorally just to stand with us,
Hmm.
that's fine too. But you go to facebook.com/groups/11 talents 2021 JAN. That's how to get into that Facebook group. So that's something you can do. Kevin, let's talk about you. You had some easy steps to starting kind of a process like
Hmm.
this.
Hmm.
I'm trying to figure out some way I can put those on the screen, but maybe I can just zoom in here. Yes, I think I can do that. And I'll just be fancy here, hit that full screen button, and then I just do share screen. And I can figure out technology. It's a thing I do, right? Um, so I can share that there with people. So
Hmm.
so people should now be seeing these easy steps that we're talking about. Let me talk us through a little bit of that.
You know, again, you know, this is from what I do in the clinic and with my online people. So, you know, your group may be a little bit different because when are you starting this fast?
The 10th.
Okay, so what I do is I'm preparing people for an extended fast over 5 to 10 days. So you don't have that right now, but basically what I think is, you know, again, it goes back to your energy source. You know, I try to change people's energy source to begin with because your body has to get used to burning fat so you can do a longer period of fasting. So I start with a ketogenic diet. I don't limit how many meals or anything like that for the first 5 days. You know, they can eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, have snacks, whatever it may be. I tell them if you're hungry, eat. If you're not hungry, don't eat. And over usually a 5-day period, we'll get through the keto flu. They'll get used to eating the foods that I want them to do, the high fat, lower sugar, lower carb types of food. After 5 days, then we go into that time restricted eating, the 16-8, which we talked about earlier. So the time restricted eating, again, the thing that, and I think I forgot to mention, is when you're doing your 8-hour window of eating, we are not eating less. We are eating less often.
Yeah,
well, that's important for people to know, is we're not restricting calories. If you've noticed during my whole talk here, I've not really talked about calories. The calories will take care of themselves once, from my standpoint, once you start changing the energy source. So we're 10 days in, we're doing a 16-8 fast. And what the next thing that I try to get them to do is, now on day 10, at that last meal, we're going to eat a large fatty meal and have some protein in it. Try to limit your carbs. So I do this on Sunday night for me, for instance.
Gotcha.
I eat a large meal. And then that will take me over until Monday evening when I do my 24-hour fast. And after, what I try to do, me and my wife, is every month, we try to do a 48 to 72-hour fast to begin the month, from Sunday night till either Tuesday night or Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Just depends. But I don't expect, from my patients, now your audience is a little bit different, but for my patients, I don't expect them to jump into this right away, because they're not doing it for spiritual reasons, they're doing it for health reasons. So I try to get them to get prepared over a month period of time of doing this, and then we start doing a little bit of extended fasting. So then after I do that, I get them like a 24-hour fast. Then we continue with the ketogenic time restricted eating, and I start implementing this intermittent fasting for different reasons, for different problems, depending on what their complaint is, whether it's diabetes or inflammation or something like that. And what's amazing is, like, some days, the 16-8 fast, sometimes I'll do a 20/4 fast. Like, I'll fast for 20 hours and eat for 4 hours. So as time goes on, you just learn your body, and all the different types of fasting that we talked about before. You have to look at not only, the medical part of it, what's doing for your body, but also people's lifestyle. If I tell people I think it's best to fast like to eat from 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, like 6 hours then. But I know in my life and in most people's lives, they have dinner with their family, they go out to eat at nighttime, and you just can't keep doing that and live a lifestyle, for 20 years, not eating, going out to dinner with your family. So again, we incorporate fasting, different types, depending on their lifestyle and what's best for them, something that they can keep doing on a regular basis.
Makes sense. Cool. Stop that. There we go. Let's see. So I wanted to call it, I'm actually going to put this into the chat section on Facebook, and then some other places, but I want to call out your website before we end the live stream that people can go to. I know you have multiple websites, so if you're like me, you just kind of have an entire collection and like a portfolio of different ways people can get in contact with you. But maybe let's talk about ourketogeniclife.com.
Yeah, that's fine. That's our Facebook page. That's our podcast name. So just if that name will take people to me however they want to get to me.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you visit ourketogeniclife.com, you can find out all sorts of great resources, like the podcast. There's blogs, and there's all sorts of resources to be able to do more to work with Kevin and his team on integrating this. So if you're looking at, making a change in your lifestyle as part of this fast, there's no reason why you can't do that. Make this your shift. There's no reason why not. But if there's anything else health-wise and things like that, we can certainly talk about that. Actually, I did have one question before we go that I completely forgot to prep you for, so I apologize. But I want to talk about people talk about doing blood work and things like that. maybe talk a little bit about why you do that and how you would want to do some blood work.
Uh, that's a big question. What specifically are you looking for? Like
So
longevity or?
yeah, there was something that, and I'm trying to remember exactly the context. It was something that you and I talked about briefly months ago.
Mhm,
And it was a way to measure certain parts of your blood, your body composition,
mhm.
to indicate what kind of things maybe to focus in on with diet and things like that.
Okay, so some of the simple tests, I think I know what you're talking about is the organics test.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
for your audience that, that if they're going to go to their doctor, a couple things that I would really recommend getting is something called your CRP. It's called C-reactive protein and your insulin level. A lot of people that go to their doctor's office do not get those two tests done. And the reason for those two tests is one, it's going to check and see if in the process of developing insulin resistance, which can lead to a lot of problems like diabetes later on in life. And CRP is a measure of inflammation in your body. So if you have an elevated CRP, and it's a simple blood test, any insurance will cover that. Your doctor should be able to get that with no problems. If you have an elevated CRP, that means you have some inflammation in your body from somewhere. Now, it could be from your diet. It could be from something wrong within your GI system, bad bacteria in there. It could be emotional stress. So if it's elevated, you need to find the reason why it's elevated. And sometimes a change in your diet is a simple thing to do, and it can elevate or it can decrease your CRP. So anybody can get that at their doctor's office, CRP and their insulin level. I think what you're referring to is called your organics test. It's a specialized test. I kind of look at it as my executive health profile. And I do that on a lot of people because what happens in your body, if you guys remember chemistry, when you have a reaction, you got A that goes to B. Well, you have to pour something on that to get it to go from A to B, and then it kind of explodes or whatever it may be in your chemistry class. So that's something that you pour on it. Think about that as like your minerals or your vitamins. So like to get from A to B and a lot of things in your body, you have to have something like enough B6, magnesium, whatever it may be. If you don't have enough of that, then instead of going from A to B, you go from A to C. And the organics test is a urine test. And what we do is we check for those C's.
Okay.
So you may do a blood test that shows that you have enough magnesium, but if we're checking C and you needed magnesium to go from A to B, we know that your body is not using magnesium like it should. We have to supplement that, even if your blood test is normal, and then we have to figure out what's happening, what's causing that. So again, it goes back to trying to find the root cause of the problem and not just giving you magnesium and let you go, and that's all you're going to do. So the organics test, what it does is it shows us how your body is functioning. So if your body's not functioning like it should, you're going to urinate these things, the C's, we'll just call them C's, and that's what we check. It's like a 4 or 5 page report, so we get a lot of C's. But but we check that, and then we're able to figure out, okay, what's the problem here? And it could be something as simple as changing your diet. It could be something as simple as you're not absorbing the right nutrients. It could be that your cells aren't using the nutrients, or maybe you have some kind of stress that's using up the nutrients too fast. So many different things that could be causing the problem, but it helps us identify instead of just like having a shotgun approach, it's
Yeah.
like a rifle. We
Mhm.
know this is the problem. This is where we need to concentrate on.
Very cool.
Is that what you were talking about?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was something that was an interesting topic to me. So I thought I'd bring that up while I had
yeah.
you here. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, I tell you what we're going to do is we're going to end our live stream, and then I'm going to open up the Zoom room for anybody that wants to say hi to Kevin uh, and do that. So, Kevin, thanks again for being with us. And if you guys have any questions, like I said, reach out. I'll review the comments every now and then. But also, if you go to ourketogeniclife.com, you can engage with Kevin and his team there, and they can answer your health questions much more effectively than I possibly could. So, yeah, appreciate that. And thank you, Kevin, for being with us.
Thank you for asking, DJ.